Welcome to episode 25 of the Tennishackery podcast. 25 is like a quarter century. We made it. So, this is the place where we discuss the fundamentals, fitness, and mind aspects of tennis and how and the interplay which goes into these topics of an integrated approach, wholesome tennis as we also call it. We are a group of extremely passionate San Francisco Bay Area based tennis coaches slash geeks. Uh, Today we have the full gang. I'm Tarun, and hey guys, how you all doing?
Hey,
Hi
hey.
guys.
Doing well, and congrats to the team on making it through to 25 episodes.
I
Yes.
know.
Yes, we are like just a year into it and 25 episodes. We are maintaining a cadence of like an episode every second or third week, which is pretty good. So,
Indeed.
yep. I'll launch with the marketing spiel. So, tennishackery.com is our website. At tennishackery with a Y is our social media handle. You can reach us on Instagram, where we are very active. We also have a presence at Meta, Facebook, X, which used to be Twitter. The video version of the podcast goes to YouTube. The audio goes to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you can use your favorite podcasting app to subscribe. The subscription would be on the different platforms. Just look for at Tennis Hackery, and please like, share, subscribe, comment, and follow us on all the socials. So with that being said, let's get started, guys. So what's going on? How is everybody doing? And what's happening in the world of tennis? Soham.
Well, the best part of this period of time is the weather is great. We're in NorCal, and it's tennis season.
Yep.
It's like the 18 plus USTA season, tournament season, and it's like exciting times for me in terms of my tennis. I've been playing tournaments, singles tennis, doubles tennis, and it's been wonderful, honestly. And I'm so happy that it's just so much tennis to consume, to enjoy, to appreciate, and just very very happy to be at this space right now. What about you, Craig and Alex?
Go ahead,
I
Alex.
I feel the same. I um more tennis, like more tennis for myself, which is hasn't been there for a while, so that's exciting. I'm gonna play a doubles tournament most likely in a few weeks, so
Nice.
super excited about that. And yeah, summer, it stays out light longer. Um yeah, no, I'm excited. Summer is always good.
Yep.
Yeah, same. It's 18 plus season and uh again doubles tournaments, whether it's official, charity, fundraisers, all these things that tend to happen this time of year. It's a burgeoning weather tennis fiesta. So definitely look forward to it. And nothing is better than spending a full day on the court and driving home at 8 o'clock and it's still light out.
Yep.
That's my favorite thing. So yeah, it's great vibes and National Tennis Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, all this great tennis. It's just a great time to be on court and off court doing all wholesome and healthy things for tennis
Absolutely.
and tennis hackery.
Yep. Tennis for health, and spring is in the air,
Exactly.
of course. Yeah.
So the new Pope also a tennis player, Tarun?
Yeah, apparently I saw some pictures of the Pope being a amateur tennis player, and Yannick Sinner coming back to play, and the pictures on Instagram. I just saw them on the socials. Sinner meeting.
They actually met, right?
Yep. Exactly.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, it's
That's
it's pretty
amazing.
good. Yeah.
So, speaking about Sinner, it's good to see him back. I
Yep.
know the Italian Open is going on,
Yep.
and
Yep.
Craig, I know you offline, in our chat room, you had mentioned something about the crowd or just the number of people who show up at this Italian Open, right?
Oh, it's insane. You look at some of the tournaments that happen, and obviously on a Monday and Tuesday, the crowd is going to be way different at 12 or 1 o'clock for the first couple rounds than it is on a Friday and Saturday. But from the very start of the Italian Open, started what, last Wednesday maybe was the first day, packed. It was crazy, and it was a fairly innocuous match. It wasn't like Paolini was out there playing.
Yeah.
against a high level player. But it was an innocuous men's match, two good players, and it was packed. I was like, holy cow. And yeah, there's just something's happening in the water in Italy these last
Yeah.
10, 12 years, and the results these last 4 or 5 have been immense. So good for them. And today I saw a match. It was interesting. It was Goff and am I pronouncing her name right? Alea, the
The
lefty, the
Filipino.
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
young lefty girl. She was really good. They're playing doubles against Paolini and Irani.
Mm.
And it was wild because Irani was the only doubles player really out there. I mean, Coco's played doubles for sure,
Yeah.
but just as far as Irani having the most natural doubles instincts.
Right.
And it was wild. It was like three singles players and a doubles player playing, and the Italian crowd was all for it. It was fantastic. So it's like we talked about, it's a lot of fun
Yeah,
things going on in the tennis court right now, in and out of Italy. So really fun stuff now and to come in the near future.
for sure. Yeah. Yes. With that being said, let's get into the main topic of this podcast, which is high performance junior tennis. So this is something that's a very, very interesting topic. The growth of uh, kids in terms of skill and in terms of their overall development into fantastic young tennis players. So this was most triggered by our interactions with Alex, who was part of the NorCal coaching team at the Maze Cup. So Alex, I'll just see the floor to you. Please let us know, how was the experience being a part of the NorCal team, and what is the Maze Cup?
Yeah, so the Maze Cup is Northern California versus Southern California. And it's the two best kids of 16s girls. Actually, the three best kids of 16s girls and boys of NorCal versus the best ones of SoCal. And then the two best boys and girls 18s versus the best ones from SoCal. And it was actually the 50th year.
50th. Wow.
This was the 50th year, so it was a big year. And so there's a lot of history. And it's the Mace Cup, so it's named after the Mace. That's the family. So it was a really big honor and like super beautiful to hear the history from that. And it's very like they're super appreciative of it being there, and it reminds them of their parents and all the history of the family. And the people that have played it before, like Davenport, you have like Pete Sampras, you have Michael Chang,
Wow.
and many, many more, because there's so many top players that played at NorCal or SoCal, right?
Yeah.
Because it's really like the top players that
Yeah.
play it. And besides that, it's like this really beautiful opportunity for these kids to play for NorCal or SoCal.
Yeah.
They're playing for a team, they're playing for where they're from, and they don't play many team events. And
Yeah.
to me, this felt, obviously I was a coach, but it felt very much like college tennis,
Hmm.
and it was like that's like big energy,
Yeah.
and you feel a total different pressure. You do know each other,
Yeah.
and it was cool also that it's like boys and girls. I really like that. And so yeah, there were two coaches. I was with Nick Fustar, he was the other coach, and then there were two coaches on the other side.
Hmm.
Um, and I knew them, so it was really fun to see them as well. Um, but yeah, it was amazing. Like it was like an amazing experience, and it was so fun to be at such like a high intensity, energy,
Yeah.
competitive environment. I've coached it a few times before, but it's been a really long time ago. So it was really fun to be there again. And NorCal hasn't won in like 10 years.
Hmm.
And I think they've only won like 5 times in like, 50
Hmm.
times. But we won this time.
Yep.
So it was really,
Let's
like, really
go.
exciting. Um,
Go
and yeah, a lot of
NorCal.
people
Yes.
were, yeah, and a lot of people were watching. A lot of people from NorCal was in NorCal this time. I was at the Berkeley Tennis Club. Um, so the next one is going to be in SoCal somewhere. So it switches on and off. But yeah, no, the kids were super pumped, nervous, very nervous. Like the night before, was this big ceremony, and it shows all the history, and playing for a team and for something bigger, it's different,
Yeah.
So yeah, kids were nervous, but did super well, and a few cramped even, because you can tell that people
Yeah.
are feeling it a bit more. But also like people cheering each other, kids cheering each other on in like a super like very involved way and caring a lot. And so yeah, it was super fun. I'm inspired. Like I honestly like left like that's probably why I'm playing a tournament. Like I was like I'm actually inspired.
So,
So
Alex, I have a
yeah.
quick question. I mean, that's such a great story, and I'm sure that, all the kids enjoyed being surrounded by like great coaches, and obviously NorCal winning is a big thing. So, congratulations on that. I have a quick question. I know like Maze Cup isn't advertised as much as it should probably, and I think I at least hearing it from you, I would love for some of my students who I teach to show up and see like what kind of level they're going to be playing in the future if they can make it. I mean, how do the players get selected?
So just the best. So it's like if you're number one in NorCal, they're gonna ask you. If that person can make it, it's gonna be number two. Most likely people say yes because it's an honor
Yeah.
and it's fun.
Yeah.
And there is no big tournament during it.
Yeah.
So like Katie Volines has played it, Connie Ma has played, like all
All the top players.
the ones from the last few years even have played it. That's how you get selected. But was one girl, for example, that got injured and right before the Maze Cup started, so then someone else got an opportunity that never expected it.
Hmm.
And so she got to experience playing the number three person as a
Hmm.
16, and she was just like, wow, like this was amazing. So that's how you get selected. Yeah,
So
ranking, pure ranking.
I'm assuming all the kids who played NorCal or SoCal, they'll end up at D1 schools.
Oh yeah, like I mean the number one boy of 18s was number one in the nation.
Oh wow.
Um, they're most likely going to go to top D1 schools or pro.
Hmm.
My guess is one or two of them will end up being a top 100 player,
Hmm.
So that's why it's cool to kind of I can't predict that, but
Yeah, you
like,
can't. Yeah.
my eyes are kind of like, oh, like that he might,
Hmm.
but yeah, definitely.
So how since you're saying that, so how as a coach, you have played at the highest level.
I wouldn't say the highest level, but
I
I
mean,
played
I mean
pro.
amongst us four, right?
Sure.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. What are the traits that you can see that tell you that I think this person, boy or girl, has
Hmm.
the a chance, to make it to like a top 100 level? Like, can you give me some
Top
traits?
100 level. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, all of them had a little bit of that,
Okay.
in my honest opinion. Um, yeah, more or less. They're just all different, but like I remember there was one person in the group that asked for certain drills right before, this match day, and what she asked, like the drill that she wanted me to do or how she wanted me to feed her, it reminded me of like how pros, what they want.
Oh,
Like there's no one else that is asking me those things when I'm coaching them now, like
Hmm.
got it.
Interesting.
Katie would definitely ask that, but like next to that, I was just like, this girl's 15 and she's asking that.
Can you
Like that's
can you tell us? Can you give an
no,
example?
I feel weird saying,
Yeah.
oh, an example. Okay. Um, she asked me to rip the ball feeding fast to her feet. So like me feeding the ball, like just behind the net and just rip the ball at her so she could fast, like return it. And she
Mm,
wanted that for like 2, 3 minutes just before going on the match. Specific to knowing who she was playing. So she was very dialed in.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
that's
Um,
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah.
And
So,
Alex, that's typical or atypical? Sounds like that's atypical.
Well, I think that's where everyone is so different because like there was also one player that was so good and so talented and was very very hard on himself and felt like it was never going well and but then he's like like ripping winners from wherever and doing crazy stuff and yeah, so it's just like you just see it just showed
Yeah.
me how different everyone is. Like the biggest thing that I walked away from it was that I was just like, first of all, coaching everyone is like you got to coach everyone differently. That was the biggest thing because like one player, I was just like, I don't know how to coach this person. It's just not clicking because I just didn't know that person. And then eventually I was like, oh, okay, this is what she needs. And then because it's different. So it felt like, yeah, everyone is just so different and they're
Yeah.
just good in their own ways. The thing that stands out is that they're into it and they care just in their own
It's,
way.
it's nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I wanted to take this discussion into the broader realm. I think this is very elite tennis that you have seen, but in general, a lot of these players come from this pipeline of so-called high performance tennis. Either they could be academy, they could be part of academies, or many of them could be just going to multiple coaches, family supported or some sponsors. So I'm just trying to get a sense of, for our audience and, parents who could be listening. What would you define high performance tennis as, as coaches? And how is it different from, coaching, a regular batch of kids in terms of, your daily sessions or your weekly sessions? I don't know, Craig or Alex, please feel free to take this question.
Go
You
ahead,
want to go, Craig?
Alex.
Craig?
I'll follow up.
Okay. Um, so you're asking what makes them different or what stands out, kind of?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I said with the Maze Cup, they're just a little different. They're
Hmm.
just more, they care more. Um, they are emotionally more invested.
Okay,
That's definitely standing out. They listened in a different, they listened better,
okay.
much better. Um, there's usually parents are more aware of what the kids need. They go to, they go to academies, they do whatever they need to do. They're way more willing to do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
They have their fitness dialed in, and if they don't, that is the one missing link for the next level. But they have to a certain extent. Um, they've probably already had mental training for a while.
Mm.
They've already had really good exposure.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I would say it's just different for every single person. Um, but they're pretty dialed in every single way. It just can always get better.
Okay. And typically their
Yeah.
journey starts from probably like maybe even before 10 years old. And, that's how they go in steps and, or are they identified early by the USTA or their
Yeah, it's
coach?
different. It's
Yeah.
different. I would say, um, because we're speaking like for the US right now, right? But I would
No.
say, yeah, they're identified. Like NorCal does a really good job identifying kids and then giving them opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for camps and day camps. It already starts with like green ball, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's really a lot of opportunities and more and more. But some kids don't get serious until they're like 12 or 13. Like
Yeah.
that's where it's
Right.
different. But I would say most kids they end up at like some academy with a private coach somewhere else or from the academy. They then along the way have a fitness coach that they're with, and then they start being invited by the USTA, and that becomes a thing that they go to every year, and
Hmm.
then they get better, and then they choose the path, whatever they choose.
Craig,
Very
I have a
interesting.
specific question for you.
Mhm.
Um, I know to follow up with what Alex was saying, which is great,
This is
understanding
amazing
traits
information.
and the disciplines that all of these and the passion that all of them have. Craig, from your experience, can you explain what high performance training is?
Um, yeah, I think there's a special skill set for junior players who are interested in that special skill set.
Right.
So meaning that, so we have our junior programs, right? Like Tarun said when he introduced the question, Alex, we'll have our daily and weekly sessions of our orange ball, green ball tournament trainings. And those are fine. Those are part of our maybe our daily programs that Alex and I have, and that you guys have. You guys have juniors in these programs. And then there's the AP version of that, the just like a regular chemistry class that a kid takes, but then there's AP chemistry.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, maybe high performance and maybe the analogy is that where some of these make Maze Cubs kids they were in AP tennis is what Alex is telling us, right? Back in the day. And that's you're not just coming to class twice a week and doing your lesson with your coach once a week and maybe getting out with a buddy on Sunday in the afternoon in the park. I mean, these kids are playing when you're in AP tennis or you're in high performance junior tennis looking to get better and looking, it's your passion. It's what you live and breathe for to get up for every day. You're in AP tennis, you're in high performance junior tennis, and you're doing that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a week. I mean, that's basically the macro version of what I'm telling you high performance junior tennis is. Within that, there's mental coaching, there's drilling, there's private coaches, there's academy coaches, like Alex said, there's the team parent coach dynamic. It's a very big spider web of it's like a little mini business without it being a business right now. So
Right.
Yeah.
but it's what they do. It's what that player, that child does most of the time. There's not violin on Tuesday. There's not tennis on Wednesday. There's not
Mhm.
kung fu on Thursday.
Yeah.
And there's not piano on Friday and then tennis again on Saturday.
Right.
That
Yeah.
doesn't exist anymore. So I know I'm probably telling you what it's not, but that leads to what it is. It's
Yep.
all in, all encompassing most of the time in the healthiest way possible
Right.
for the parent, the coach, the player, and whatever program they're in. And within that is all the micro possibilities of what that player identifies as working on offensive player, defensive player, the drills that are there associated with the footwork, all those dynamics. So that would be my big old verbiage of what I think high performance junior tennis is mostly. It's like an AP tennis for young kids at the highest level.
No, well said, Craig. And it's so today and over the past few weeks, I have been really observing some of my students to see basically who are those top 5 to 10 percentile of my students who showcase such traits on court,
Hmm.
outside of the court, their willingness to do what it takes to make it to the next level. So that I, and I was actually just doing this earlier today, I talked to their parents saying that I believe, and as a coach, I think it's my duty, honestly, responsibility almost, to communicate that to both the students and the parents that I feel with if they go on this path journey, I believe that they would be one of the top players in like at least in let's say California, right? So what I look at, and you guys are experts, you can correct me, or maybe you have a different technique, is I really look at that body language a lot of times and their desire. And I think I've spoken about this in a previous episode about certain kids who who call or message me on a daily basis saying that I want to play tennis, right? And I feel like those are critical traits who show up on court and are willing to push the boundaries, the limits, or whatever, go through the pain. Some days are bad, they can't put a serve in, but they'll still show up the next day, right? So I feel a lot of it is like it comes from within. Some things you can't teach, right? And then of course the next step is their ability, and whether it's fitness, fundamentals, or the mental part of the game that comes with exposure, experience, training, and all of that. But at the core, I really feel it's like that determination to really like be competitive or want to improve but want to grow and just be on the tennis court.
Yeah, so let me transition this. So great setup, and then I'm going to ask Alex to follow up on what you said and what I'm about to say, which is you're talking about what you're willing to give, and you're identifying the player and the parent. It's like, hey, what is your child, your player willing to give? And then Alex, I want you to talk about, because you've been there, what are you willing to give up?
Ooh.
That's a
right?
loaded
And
question.
what, so,
Yeah.
right, but both of them are
It's
equally
deep. Yeah, it's
true.
true.
And that, yeah, it's a little more
Yes,
philosophical.
absolutely.
And that's what I want to talk about. And Alex, like what,
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. Like it's what you're willing to give and what you're willing to give up.
Oh, that's a good one, Craig. I that's where I think it separates people from the levels, you know, and it's like
Yeah,
we're talking about
that's
high
what separates it.
performance, but some of these kids from Ace Cup, for example, will go to a D1 and end up um playing and having a good time and definitely doing well, but like, you know, academics is number one and it ends up being just an overall very fun experience and it's great. And some will have that lead to pro. Some will skip that and go pro, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
different. But
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say with that is, yeah, what do you want to give up, right? It's like, well,
Mhm.
you might not want to give up that good time in college. You might not want to give up that time you're investing in academics because you want to become this or have that job. And that is actually number one. Um, so what do you want to give up is huge. Like, um, yeah, I definitely gave up a lot when I was young, and I don't have regrets in it. But I feel like now that was also a reason why I never went further than I did because I couldn't keep giving up things, and it wasn't in my personality, you know. So I think it's an extent for people a lot,
Mhm.
how badly they really want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, because like you need to want it badly to be this level. You need to want it badly to the next level. It's just like how extreme does that get? And
Right.
that's why we say that a lot of tennis players, like, yeah, we can get pretty intense because you
Yeah.
kind of need to have a little bit of a certain personality to be that extreme and want something so extreme because you have to give up, like, you know, your friendships in some ways. It's like it becomes a different type of
Mm,
friendship. It's
Yeah.
your birthdays or like your Christmas or
yeah, yeah.
all like your social life, and it's a
Isn't it,
very different life.
Alex, isn't it important to strike that balance though? Otherwise you'll go crazy if you're that intense all the time.
I think so. Yeah, I wish I did it better when I was younger, but I think it's hard. I think it's hard. I think it's hard to find that balance because like it's also what pushes you, you know, like
Yeah.
that competitiveness, that desire to push forward. A lot of it is also like the reason why you work so hard. So that's why some are not like that and they're more balanced from the start and they can, to me, Sinner feels like that.
Mm.
Just they're probably a little bit more balanced of like hanging out with their family, going on a little family trip as well, or with their friends. They need that time as well. But I think a lot of top players really struggle with finding that balance. And that's what I'm passionate about as a coach now when I work with my players because I know what was tough for me and how that was after my tennis because I think
Right.
that's the hardest part for when kids are so wired and like got to do better, got to get better, got to win. This is not good enough. It's not good enough. Let's keep going. And then eventually it's like, well, now what? You know? So I'm passionate about making sure you still have a life and but also finding that discipline. Like you still gotta, if that's your goal, you still gotta do that, you know?
Yeah.
You
So
know, that's such a good perspective that you bring, Alex, and that I think kids who are coming to you or getting trained under you, having that experience that you've had, that you can share that with kids who are either super intense and want to go pro or whatever, or somebody who just wants to go to college and then have a regular life. I think the fact that you have had that experience, but now you're also trying to strike that balance between your coaching full time and your other social life. I think it's very important at the end of the day for mental peace in general to have some sense of balance. In,
yeah,
with that saying being said, I must pay tremendous amount of respect to all the professional athletes out there
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's freaking very hard and it takes a
same.
lot of mental and physical, it's grueling, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
same. I
Yeah.
respect it a lot.
Speaking of giving up, Alex and Craig, and so if you've noticed this, uh, my question was more on, I think I asked Lisa from Parenting Aces the same thing. Like, For these high performance athletes, what do you see as, the division in roles of the parent versus the coaching team? Like, what kind of support are they looking for? Are they being given by their parents? How involved are they? And a second question is about giving up. Uh, I do hear that many of them are homeschooled, or like a reasonable percentage of them are homeschooled, which means that they are giving up a lot. So I just wanted you to speak to that. Like, does homeschooling, is it helpful? Is it not? I mean, of course, in terms of time, somewhere something has to give. So, if please feel free to address that question in any way that you feel like.
Yeah, we have a kid who is a hybrid homeschool and goes to a couple classes at his high school just so he can play on the tennis team. And he's as a freshman, he plays on the varsity team, so he's not quite maybe D1 highly ranked Northern California material yet, but he's like in about a year and a half, this kid is going to be crazy solid and might not play high school tennis his senior year because he'll be good enough to be traveling regionally or and so forth. So yeah, these kids are identifiable, and the reality is for the parent coach player universe, there's a we talked about this a few episodes ago where it's a buy-in from everybody. And if you're a perceptive coach, you know who these kids are. And the kids who can't even show up with, the right gear, couple rackets, they're not aware of their stringing patterns of, "Oh, the new season's coming up. I should have at least two or three rackets with the same strings and the same tensions," versus the kids who are, again, when they're not being asked to do extra, they're out on the ball machine. They don't have a partner to hit with. They're out there doing serving practice. So, they're finding players and coaches to hit with outside of their time. And I think some of these homeschool kids are quite resourceful because they have to do things on their own. And, that's a big part of it. But I don't know if they're in mutual symbiotic relationship with homeschool and successful tennis kids, but I think certainly some that are compatible with that. So I think those traits are aligned in some ways for sure.
Yeah.
Alex, any comments? Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to homeschooling, I do think it's just depends on the kid. Um, I have one girl right now that is homeschooled. Well, I have a few, but one in particular that is going back to school because she just needs to be around kids
Yeah.
socially, you know. And then I have another one that is going to continue being homeschooled, and it's working really well for her. But you are giving up that social aspect, so that comes up. That is a topic. Um, so yeah, it goes back to giving things up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I think you just you can't have it all.
Right.
But you can like be aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I brought this up is you did mention that it takes a lot. Craig was alluding to, like, these kids are dialed in, they are hyper specializing. There is no piano, there is no, like, in most cases, there is no other second sport, nothing else involved. And I mean, homeschooling comes as a logical kind of a choice that many families make to create that time to train during the day.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I have one thing that I want to say is I think you got to know your kid in that too. Like
Yeah.
what is good for your kid, you know? It's
Yes.
like, because I know some kids that they weren't homeschooled, they went to public school, they didn't travel to all the tournaments everywhere, and they
Right.
were actually the best one. You know, they were actually like making it better than the other ones that were doing all the things.
Yeah.
And that definitely shows up as well. So yeah.
So every path is kind of unique based on the
Yeah.
personality and circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Tarun, I have a question for you. Since you're asking all the questions, now I'm going to ask you a question. Tarun,
Yeah, ask me about low performance tennis, man. Yeah.
no, not at all. Your journey has been pretty commendable, honestly, given that, you didn't have any formal coaching or anything. What I want to ask you is, we talk about junior level high performance training. Like, what about like 30-year-olds trying to like get better, improve, actually try to do something very similar to high performance, but obviously at a later stage in their life. I can speak from it from my experience, what I have tried to do and implement in my journey. But I want to hear from you first. Like
Yeah,
it's not always,
yeah,
we may not have had the opportunity growing up to play tennis or get coaching, right?
yeah.
So what do we do when we are at this later stage in life?
Yeah, so like as an adult who picked up tennis later in life, so I definitely think that many of these older athletes, from what I have seen, who have not played tennis growing up, they tend to gravitate towards sports like tennis and golf because there's that element of tinkering in it. You can go, you can work on certain skills, try to be like you get coaching, and it's not just about you're not limited by what your body tells you to do. You can find ways around it. There are different ways to play the game. Different spins you can create, different spin profiles. So tennis and golf is what I've heard that a lot of people are, the older athletes they tend to gravitate towards. And I played 40 plus sectionals last week, and I can say that the kind of older athletes that I have seen, quite a few of them look like they picked up tennis late in life. You can just tell because I coach juniors, and I don't see some of those elements of clean technique in them. But what I find is that they are very consistent. They hit solid shots. They understand high percentage tennis. It may not be high performance tennis, but maybe it's definitely high percentage tennis. This is definitely a lot that you can learn from, like because these people are smart and they're investing their time. They already have full-time careers. They have school, family responsibilities. So they really are very focused on what they do with their time. This is something that I have observed for sure.
Craig, maybe you can, speak to this.
Yeah, so I was just talking about this with somebody today in one of my hits, and he was in. I have an airline pilot buddy I play with, and we try to drill once a week. He's another 5-0 guy, and we just try to get some hitting in. And he traveled to Washington, D.C., and played in a little tournament there with one of his friends. And they played against a couple 4 or 5 guys, and Tarun described the exact player that they played. Crafty, lots of slices and chops and things, but they knew their lane. Like he said, this one guy, he was a lefty, slice and dice, chip short, didn't have classic strokes. And I agree with Tarun. It's like there's some of these players, some of these men and women who pick up tennis later in life, they know what they can do well.
Mm-hmm.
They do it well, and that's what they stick with. And yet they can still tinker, Tarun, right? They
Yes.
can still tinker with getting better without maybe much formal coaching, or they get a tip from their pro or in a clinic, and then they go out and do it. But it's still within their framework of what
Right.
they do well. They're not trying to do the big loop and the top spin and low to high and brushing, and they don't have poly strings and all this stuff. They do what they do. And that's kind of the beauty of tennis and golf. And you can go out in the range in golf. You can go hit with your buddy in tennis at the park and work on things. But for these players who come from a different background of the non-high performance junior tennis world, it is kind of admirable where they kind of stick with what they know. They've solved it. They figured it out. They know they're not going to undergo a grip change at 43 years
Yeah.
old and spend, because you're right, they have full-time jobs. They have dedicated time to other things, and they want to go out and have fun. And guess what you do when you go out and have fun? You get the ball over the net any way you can, in the best way you can, and you stick with it. And if it doesn't work, you laugh about it, have a beer afterwards, talk about it, and try again and tinker a little more later. But they're not going to go undergo this strength, speed, agility, quickness drills. They're not going to go undergo all these things. They're not in AP tennis. They're in their little tinkering. Dare I say they're hacking?
Yes.
They're in their tennis
Oh,
I was
hackery
waiting for
mode.
that.
Ding, ding,
So
ding.
yes,
so there you
so
go.
yeah, so I agree, Soham and Tarun, and that's a great way to put it.
Alex, I'm at this stage where I'm not ready to be that kind of player. I'm still wanting to work
You
hard
still
like the
got a lot of
juniors.
time.
Yeah.
like work hard like the juniors, but then you end up playing all these juniors who are like so much better, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of which, I had a conversation with my buddy, Scott, right, Craig.
Mhm.
We sat down after a hit, and he asked me one question. Tell me what are your basic strengths in tennis, so that we can build an identity, right? Which is such an amazing question, because it is very important for all tennis players, serious tennis players at least, to realize what are their strengths, what is their identity, and stick to that, right? And be able to adapt to different opponents. So even the other day, Alex and I were hitting, she asked me like what kind of player, who's like a role model type of player, not who you support, type of player that you resemble, right? And we were watching some videos, and it was like, yeah, man, like I love Rafa, but maybe I try to play. I'm nowhere near, but my game is similar to the way Novak plays, right? So I need to have certain things that I stick to and work on. So I think I guess we can end it this way, Tarun, is how it's very important to have an identity in tennis,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yep.
Alex,
Let me ask Alex one thing, because I have a note before the episode that I wanted to talk about where not only as a player, Alex, but as a coach. So, how important is it to have an identity as a coach and still be flexible with your juniors, right? Like you maybe have a handful of specialties, Alex, but
Mhm.
then it's also important to find out the potential identity of your player and then have them be flexible with their coach.
mm,
And Alex, can you talk about marrying the balance between that? Because we had talked previously, all amongst all of us,
Yeah, yeah.
about trying to be good at everything,
Right.
Mhm.
but that certainly isn't fair to your player. Certainly
Yeah.
not fair to you as a coach or all of us as a coach. And we need to arguably, I think the way that I kind of come to terms with that philosophy is, okay, if my player is a defensive player or a grinder, Soham, is that the conclusion that you came to? That you're a technical grinder, like you're going to grind it out from the baseline.
yep.
And so then I would say, okay, then we are going to work on your floor and what's the biggest area of opportunity. And can I, as a coach, and you as a player, come to some common ground that we can agree on to build up that whatever the greatest weakness is, and say, if we build that up, then your floor will be higher, and we don't necessarily care about your ceiling. So Alex, how do you see that
Mhm.
playing out between the coach and player relationship and then raising that area of opportunity that might be the
Yeah.
greatest?
Yeah, I feel like that's always like the question, how to do that. But like for example, Soham, right? We were talking about moving in and out of the baseline more. Um, and that is something that usually people need to work on.
Yeah.
Juniors need to work on. They don't do as much. But then I was like, yeah, but who do you want to play like? Because like Rafa goes in and out like way more than certain other players.
Yeah.
So then it becomes more of like, well, which one do you think makes more sense to you with your strengths and your weaknesses?
Mhm.
And with like if you would start going like that, like Rafa, it would change your whole game much more and would take away with what you're already good at. So I think that's kind of the question of like with the player not thinking like everyone needs to start getting better, so much better at doing this and all these
Yeah.
aspects of tennis, but maybe it's only a certain degree because they need to make sure that we're still working on their strengths enough. Um, I think it's like really working on the strengths a lot and then slowly adding, getting that floor better. And like, I really, one thing that I really like to do is giving more tools,
Mhm.
especially to juniors. So it's like over time, if you do 5 minutes every single time of slice, then maybe after 3 months, you're already using that in the match a little bit. Maybe after a year, you actually have a really good slice.
Yeah.
Um, Swing volleys, like just a little bit of the extra over
Right.
time. But the next to that, play how you play, keep playing how you play. Like even like a girl today, great student.
the dad asked me afterwards, like, so what do you think of her game? What should we continue to work on? I was like, well, the way I see it with her is she's a hard hitter. She plays very aggressive. She does a really good job hitting a very clean ball. She's not very strong defensively. She doesn't really lift the ball or like she doesn't have neutralizing shots as much. So I said I want to continue working on her footwork. I want to continue working on neutralizing shots, maybe 10%. And then she needs to keep playing how she plays when she doesn't see me. Keep playing your game, but 10%. Add that for 10% in your practices. And I think over time you're just going to be a more all-court player, but still your way. That's kind of how I try to do it. I used to try to make everyone like how I used to play, and that was a big lesson for me for sure.
Amazing. Yeah, that's.
I do think, just to add, Alex, I do think what you said is so true, giving them the tools slowly so that you don't
Yeah.
overwhelm them with
Yeah.
too much information too fast. To slowly build on that, having them more tools so that they can start utilizing them depending on the situation or depending on the type of ball that you're getting back. Like Craig always talks about receiving, right? Sending and receiving. I think ultimately variety is very important because you are going to play different types of players, right? So one thing I always tell my students is try to understand the type of player that you're playing and adapt your game style. And in order for you to adapt, you need to have experience to utilize certain tools.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate there.
Yeah.
Just because it was shown to me at Mace Cup. There was one player that had very little variety,
Uh-huh.
and he was struggling in one match, and he was actually the top player, and he was just having a day that he was struggling. And I was like going to like, let's go a little higher, let's do, variety. And he looked at me and he said, like, yeah, I can try, but I don't play with variety. I just really don't. And he doesn't. And so I do agree that it's important that he keeps learning that. But if I would have been his coach younger and I would have focused on that too much, he would have not been as like he just plays so good and he just like is fearless and I don't know how he does it, but he does it. You know what I mean? So
You're so good at what you do that you might have one or two bad days, but you generally still end up
that's
figuring
that's
it
what
out.
it showed me because I literally looked at him. I was kind of like, he was coached by the right person, like they just let him do what he does. And
Right,
yeah.
right.
And isn't that the cool part about tennis? It's like you could be, one set of piece, having your like a really bad day and you're not beating somebody you should beat, and you're trying to fight your way out of a paper bag. And there's that ultimate question. Do I keep fighting my way out of that paper bag, or do I try to go to plan B or C or D? And as coaches, we talk about that all the time. It's like, okay, we need to have a plan B. We need to have a plan C. We need to have a plan D. But if you're really special and your
Right.
tools are the most special tools, it's like, well, I need to keep using that special tool because that's the only way I'm going to fight out of that paper bag. And that's the beauty of tennis. It's
That's
just
fascinating, Craig.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. It is truly maddening and fascinating and beautiful and ugly all at the same time.
Yep.
For
Yep.
sure.
Yep. That's tennis for you in a nutshell.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And always will be.
Yes, for sure.
And it's the best sport out there.
Yep.
Unbiased.
Rather not be playing
I agree.
anything else. Yep.
No ping pong at your local workplace, by
Oh,
the way.
no.
Or pickleball.
Oh.
No.
I think this episode can go on and on,
Yeah,
Tarun.
indeed, it can go on
Yeah.
and on, but like all good things, it must come to an end. And I will launch back into the closing marketing spiel. Folks, please like, share, subscribe, comment, follow us at Tennishackery with a Y is our social media handle. We are on Instagram, very active on Instagram. Meta, we use Meta, Facebook, X. YouTube, the audio version goes to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can actually look at Tennishackery on any of your favorite podcasting apps, and you will be able to find us. The video version goes to YouTube. We recently put out a match review video in which we do both qualitative and quantitative match analysis. That was episode number 24. This was the match in which Dan Evans did a lot of brain damage to Novak Djokovic. And we actually did a proper analysis of that. If you would like something like that done for your own game, please do send us an email, match@tennishackery.com, or you can even DM us, that is direct message us at Tennishackery on all the social platforms, and we'll be happy to do a summary video for you. Anything else?
And you can reach us also on our website at www.tennishackery.com.
And with that, we come to the end of episode 25. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Good night, guys.
See you guys. Good
Thank you,
night.
everybody.